Green Road Synagogue traces its origins to immigrants from the Marmarsha region in Hungary. In 1910, the immigrants were renting space at Woodland Avenue. In 1921, the original founders moved to East 61st Street, and then a few years later to 105th Street.
They were called Marmorshers.
Marmaris wasn't a country, of course. It was a province in Transylvania.
They had nothing. My father came over with a pregnant wife, 8 months pregnant, a 2-year-old son, and $10 in his pocket.
When they came to this country, nobody helped them. They didn't get money from Federation. They didn't get money from anybody. They came, they had to do everything on their own. And they did everything on their own.
In 1952, the synagogue moved again.
My shul was the Marmarsha Jewish Center on Lancashire, off of Coventry in Cleveland Heights. Every Shabbos we went to synagogue. We had to drive down to synagogue because we lived up in the Heights, but they wanted to daven in the Orthodox way.
In 1968, the congregation opened a branch in Beachwood and then relocated all of its activities in 1971 to the Beachwood campus.
We walked the Torahs from Lancashire to a house on Green Road, where the synagogue is now.
You had folding chairs and a little curtain as a mechitza, and that served as the temporary home for Green Road Synagogue. It was actually an older farm, so it was always a little bit of an adventure.
The congregation broke ground at the Green Road Synagogue building in Beachwood.
The people that built this shul, they were passionate.
People who were in the Holocaust started a shul. They built it, and they knew that this was a safe place for them to be.
They wanted it so badly, there was nothing standing in their way.
They all put their shekels together, they all put their dollar bills together, and they said they wanted to do it.
Everybody contributed. We were happy and proud to donate.
And those that couldn't give did. They came and they worked. The plumbers did plumbing. The electricians did the electrical. The masonry guys did the masonry. For the shul, everyone did everything.
The shul meant to each of us, a home. Because we lost a home before, we made here a home, and this was our second home.
The leadership of the shul was 100% survivor community. People like Joe Pearl, who was the president of the shul for more than 30 years.
Yeah, well, what does the president do?
Nothing, stealing the money from the people. No. That's all they want me to be president every year, and I just can't get out of it.
When somebody was a friend here, it was a friend that you did everything for.
Sometimes they would argue, people would argue. But boy, when someone needed help, everyone was together.
Appreciating where they came from, appreciating what they went through, and appreciating their ability to build the shul and continue and thrive, not just survive. You used the term survivors. They were able to thrive.
Here I am in America, in a shul, in a Yiddish shul, that the Holocaust people built like a memorial for the 6 million. And I see a shul, a beautiful building. It filled my heart. I felt that I'm not alone anymore.
The building stands as an edifice to the people who were here before. It makes me feel like I have the responsibility to continue that.
It was really the beginning and the opening up of Beachwood as a prospective community for observant Orthodox Jews. Back then, this was an outpost. If you look at what's transpired over the last 40 plus years, it's extraordinary.
There's a grandeur when you walk into the building for the first time.
It's beautiful with the stained glass windows.
There's a kedusha, a holiness to the room.
The beauty of the shul is just a remarkable thing. I came here in January of 1974.
He was a tall, young, good-looking man. As a kid, I looked, I said, wow, that's a rabbi?
Here were all of these Holocaust survivors who mainly spoke Yiddish, and here is this brilliant young Canadian rabbi, but I wasn't sure how all of these European people would take to Rabbi Granitstein.
Initially, it was kind of odd. I was in my 30s, they were in their 50s by and large. And the question is, how am I going to handle this? But thank God, it went pretty well.
He navigated this shul in a way that really earned him the respect that he so deserved.
His interweaving of philosophy and Torah and so much else that Tzudah Shlishi was simply masterful.
The people that made this shul were people who had basically the same backgrounds. They had a lot of kinship between them, a lot of friendship between them, which is beautiful, of course. And that's how they were connected. They weren't necessarily Orthodox Jews in the sense of practice. They were Orthodox in their affiliation.
The Holocaust survivors that used to come, they used to bring their children, and I don't see too many of their children coming anymore.
Those who ultimately entered the synagogue and shape it today were people who either came from Orthodox families or people who became Orthodox. One of the great blessings that occurred to this shul is that younger people came in.
And as more families started to move into town, as people were raising their families, it became clear that there needed to be more options for day school education here in Cleveland. Rabbi Granitstein was one of the original founders of Beit Sefer Mizrahi, which later became known as the Fuchs Mizrahi School.
That was always a source of pride for me. And I have to tell you that my connection with Fuchs Mizrahi School had a great deal to do with the fact that people began to join our shul.
It was like in September, and Rabbi Granitstein said that he was retiring and that he was giving the job to Rabbi Blau.
It was not terribly surprising when he advised me that he wanted to retire and that he wanted to move to Israel. We conducted a search, and we discovered that we really had a tremendous talent right in our own backyard who had been here for years, and that was Rabbi Blau. Rabbi Blau's family has been leaders in the rabbinate for more than 20 generations. And Rabbi Blau learned at the feet of his grandfather.
I still recall going back to my interview process that I had a separate interview only in Yiddish with some of these senior members, and that was a delight.
Commitment and dedication to the Kehillah that Rabbi Blau demonstrates is extraordinary.
There are clear areas of requirements, but there are many areas that are undefined, and you have to create the opportunities and find the right moments and find the ways to interact with people as a whole.
I always felt a special connection with him, which I think a lot of people do.
He makes everyone feel so warm and comfortable in the shul.
Green Road Synagogue is the largest modern Orthodox synagogue here in Cleveland. And it really serves as the hub of our community.
Even though I'm in, the real world during the week, I get to be with my community, with my shul, with my religion more on Shabbat.
A lot of learning opportunities that we have both in the shul and outside the shul. All kinds of Bnei Akiva, NCSY, Yachad.
People are much more willing to be accepting in a good way. And that's critical. You want your children to develop certain midos and certain character traits, and that's really the essence of what it means to raise children in Cleveland.
If somebody is from Cleveland, somebody's going to bring them back. One of the spouses can be like, we got to move here.
Whether it's a warm greeting at the door or a little kibbutz during davening or the post-davening kiddush, you're part of a family.
It's a constant influx and outgoing of families to and from Israel on a regular basis. If you look at the shlichim that the school brings in or the Bnei Akiva brings in,
this is what we did. This is what we accomplished. These are our people. These are our children.
Every Simchat Torah when we have to have our specially designed talit that's so large to encompass all the kids who can't fit under the bima, can't fit under the talis for Kol Aram. Those moments are really priceless.
When I come to shul every Shabbos and I see the young couples with their children, my heart grows. I'm so happy.
We get to sit with our family in shul every day.
When I do those tefillos, even though many of those people are no longer here, I remember the faces and the emotional state of those people.
Look what we created. This is a tribute to us Holocaust survivors, without language, without knowledge, without money, but a will.
It's nachas d'katzorot. It's wonderful problems that come from our growth, from our explosion, but it's a challenge, and we really aren't always meeting our needs because you can't have more youth groups if you have no place to put them. You can't have more minyanim if there's no place for them to daven.
Probably about 20 years ago, we started to think about whether this building on Green Road was going to be adequate for the future of the shul.
There's a glorious history associated with this building, but at the same time, we're proud that we have, thank God, grown beyond and need to have the opportunity if we want to do all the things that Green Road Synagogue can and should be doing.
Because of the vision of the Marmorshers who moved here in 1973, we had enough land to build a new building on the same site. It was a very exciting opportunity that we were able to fundraise and design and develop a building that really is going to be able to suit this congregation for many decades and generations to come.
I'm looking to kind of reinvigorate the shul itself and, around this building.
We have to build for the future, and in many ways, that's what our predecessors did before us. They moved to new location because they realized it was time for the next phase. So in that sense, it's that constantly looking forward to the next stage while never forgetting our point of origin and building on the shoulders of giants. That's our task as a Jewish people. That's our task as the members of Green Road Synagogue.
The most powerful feature will be the Memorial and Legacy Hall to those that lost their lives in the Holocaust and in memory of the founding generation of our shul.
We are continuing moving into something new and still preserving the old.
According to the Nazis, we were not supposed to be alive. Jewish people cannot continue. We continue. And Am Israel Chai.